The story started with what looked like a routine bank robbery, but the strange part was that the robber never even touched a gun. With just a few words and a single look, he could completely take control of strangers. The woman he targeted acted like she was possessed, repeating, "It's really hot today." Seconds later, she completely lost control of herself. At the same time, the mysterious man walked into the bank. Meanwhile, Detective Rourke arrived early at the bank vault. Someone had reported that safety deposit box 32 was going to be robbed, but when Rourke opened the metal case inside the box, he froze. Inside was a photo of his missing daughter. There was also a strange phrase written on it. Before he could process it, gunshots suddenly echoed outside. 2 security guards rushed into the vault. It was obvious they were already under the mysterious man's influence. Rourke quickly hid and prepared to strike first, but the person who entered was only a bank employee. Moments later, the employee and the guards carried the metal case onto an armored truck. Outside, the woman who had been controlled earlier suddenly became unbearably overheated and jumped into a fountain to cool off. The responding officers were distracted by the chaos. Then, without warning, the armored truck lost control. The crash instantly turned deadly. The mysterious man calmly walked over and took the metal case from the wreck. Before leaving, he casually planted a bomb behind him. The moment Rourke saw him escape, he took off after him. The chase led to an abandoned warehouse where 2 fellow detectives joined him. The 3 of them rushed upstairs together. Soon, they cornered the man on the rooftop. But even with 3 guns pointed at him, he stayed completely calm. He slowly turned around. Then, with only a single sentence, 2 detectives instantly lost awareness. That was when Rourke realized this man was far from ordinary. He quickly pulled out the photo of his daughter and demanded answers, but the mysterious man suddenly jumped off the roof. When Rourke rushed over to look, there was nobody below. A few hours earlier, Rourke had been attending therapy sessions. Years ago, his daughter had been kidnapped right in front of him. The incident destroyed his family and left lasting trauma behind. During therapy, he received a message from his partner and immediately headed to the bank. His partner, Nix, explained that someone had reported a robbery targeting box 32. The 2 rushed to the scene. Inside the surveillance van, Rourke quickly noticed the strange man. That led directly into the events at the beginning, but everything about the robbery felt impossible. The armored guards were controlled, the bank employee was controlled, even fellow officers had been controlled, and somehow the real target was only a photo of his daughter. Trying to uncover the truth, Rourke visited a tarot shop. The owner was a woman named Diana. She was also the one who called the police. The moment Diana saw Rourke walk in, she immediately sent her customers away. Rourke's daughter's disappearance had once made the news, so she recognized him instantly. While they talked, one customer stayed outside the shop, but he failed to notice someone quietly approaching behind him. At the same time, Diana learned that Rourke had encountered the mysterious man at the bank. Her expression immediately changed. She quickly tried to close the shop and send Rourke away. That was when the attack happened outside. Luckily, Rourke managed to save Diana in time. Diana immediately realized the attacker had already been controlled. For safety reasons, Rourke brought Diana back to the station. There, Diana explained that the man used a special form of hypnosis. Once someone became targeted, they completely lost free will. Rourke didn't believe it at all. To him, it sounded less like hypnosis and more like a superpower, but Diana kept explaining. People under control became like empty puppets. They followed commands without question, even if it cost them their lives. To prove she was telling the truth, Diana hypnotized Nix right in front of Rourke. Seeing it happen firsthand finally made him start believing her. Nix had been his partner for years. There was no way he would fake something like this for a stranger. Still, Diana admitted she had also tried to control Rourke before, but it failed. His mental resistance was much stronger than normal. Unless it was a master hypnotist, controlling him would be extremely difficult. Unfortunately, Nix wasn't as lucky. Standing outside was the mysterious man himself, Delrain. The moment Rourke and Diana sensed something wrong, they looked toward the door. Nix slowly walked inside holding a gun. His eyes looked completely empty, facing his longtime partner. Rourke couldn't bring himself to shoot. He tried to snap Nix out of it, but it quickly became clear the situation was far worse than he imagined. Nix had completely turned into a machine that only followed commands. Even after his arm became trapped, he nearly tore it apart just to keep reaching for the gun. In the end, Diana had no choice but to shoot him. Watching his partner die finally made Rourke realize how serious this was. News reports quickly labeled them fugitives. Nobody was ever going to believe a story about mind control hypnosis. Now Rourke and Diana had no choice but to run together. At the same time, Rourke became certain of one thing. Delrain's real target was the photo of his daughter, which meant he probably knew where she was. While the two talked inside a bar, a state trooper walked in, after noticing the blood on Rourke and Diana. The officer immediately became suspicious. Diana quickly hypnotized him. She made him report a fake location over the radio. She even had him pay their bill. But just as they prepared to leave, Diana suddenly heard Delrain's voice through the police radio. She immediately rushed outside. Delrain had already arrived with police officers surrounding the entrance. Without hesitating, Rourke grabbed the photo and led the pursuers away. He sprinted into a train station, thinking he could finally lose them, but against Delrain, there was nowhere to hide. Afterward, Diana brought Rourke to meet her former mentor. She hoped he might know a way to stop Delrain, but to avoid falling under hypnosis again, they stayed alert the entire time. Once the bald man realized the truth could no longer stay hidden, he finally told Rourke everything. He explained that Delrain had been searching for the strongest hypnotists and turning them into tools he could control. He also revealed that hypnotists had another ability: they could erase their own memories. Only specific symbols or hidden triggers could unlock those buried memories again. The moment Rourke heard that, he immediately pulled out the photo of his daughter. The phrase written on the picture was likely the trigger connected to his memories, and if Delrain ever got hold of it, his power would become even more dangerous. But halfway through the escape, the hallucinations returned. The world around him started bending and shifting again. Suddenly, a car slammed directly toward him. After being forced to stop, ordinary civilians slowly surrounded him from every direction. Soon, police officers blocked his path as well, but when Delrain finally stepped forward, Rourke realized the entire situation was another layer of hypnosis. Delrain calmly said, "Look at me." Every officer instantly raised their guns, but the next second, Rourke somehow pushed back against Delrain's control. The two entered a direct mental battle. In the end, Rourke actually overpowered him. The officers suddenly turned their weapons toward Delrain instead. Watching Delrain get arrested left Rourke completely confused. He was just a detective. So how could he suddenly fight back against hypnosis like this? Trying to understand the truth, Diana brought him to visit one of her former co-workers. Using internal databases, the man started digging into Rourke's records. At first, everything looked normal, but then one detail made Rourke freeze. According to the system, he had never been married. Rourke stood there stunned. If he never had a wife, then where did his daughter come from? He immediately searched for information about Allison, but the results showed that his so-called wife was actually a member of a hypnotist organization. At that moment, Rourke finally started doubting his own memories. Late that night, he sat alone at the computer and kept digging for answers. This time, he searched Diana's records. What he found made even less sense. The system showed that Diana wasn't just a hypnotic. She also worked under Delrain. Rourke was completely stunned. He quickly pulled up the wedding photo on his phone. That was when he finally realized something. The woman in the photo was Diana. Then he searched for information about his daughter. The file revealed that she was the child of 2 elite hypnotics, which meant one thing: Rourke himself was also a hypnotic. At that moment, Diana walked out from behind him. By now, there was no reason to keep pretending anymore. As his memories slowly came back, Rourke finally understood who he really was. The scene suddenly shifted. The two of them were now standing inside a massive hall. Behind them stood dozens of hypnotics dressed in red. Even Nix, who supposedly died earlier, was standing there too. Then Delrain stepped forward again. He held up the photo one more time and demanded to know where Rourke's daughter was hidden. But the second he stepped outside, he froze. The bank from earlier was nothing more than a fake set made from steel frames. He also spotted the so-called tarot shop nearby. That was when he realized the truth. Everything he experienced had been a fabricated world created by the organization. Following the plan, they dragged Rourke back into the lab again. Powerful electric signals surged through his brain. His memories were reset once more. When he opened his eyes, the same therapist was sitting in front of him again. The man continued feeding him the story about his daughter being kidnapped years ago. After that, Rourke stepped into the elevator, but the elevator never actually moved. Hypnosis simply made him believe he was somewhere else. Soon after, Nix picked up his gun and got ready to play his role again. Same route, same setup. He drove over to pick up Rourke and told him someone planned to rob safety deposit box 32. Then the two arrived at the surveillance van. The moment Rourke saw Delrain on the monitor, he sensed something was wrong again. He decided to enter the bank early, but this time, he suddenly stopped halfway there. The next second, Nix completely lost sight of him because Rourke had finally broken through the hypnotic construct. Diana immediately stepped in front of him and tried to stop him from leaving, but Rourke didn't slow down at all. And his daughter had been hidden there the entire time. Just then, helicopters appeared overhead. Delrain had arrived with all of his people. A convoy of vehicles rushed into the farm behind him. The moment Diana saw the old couple, it looked like something suddenly clicked in her memory, but before she could react, Nix opened fire. The elderly couple instantly dropped to the ground. A moment later, Rourke walked out of the house with his daughter beside him the second Diana saw the girl. Her expression completely changed, but the real twist was only beginning. The girl calmly said, "It's time to end this." Delrain instantly realized he had walked into a trap. He pulled out his gun and started firing, trying to wake his people up, because everything they were seeing was also another hypnotic illusion, but by then, it was already too late. Rourke's daughter had grown into the most powerful hypnotic of all. Delrain's men didn't stand a chance against her. One after another, they began turning their guns on each other. The entire scene spiraled out of control. Seeing everything collapse, Delrain could only start shooting his own men himself. And the adoptive parents who supposedly died earlier were actually still alive. The two immediately joined the fight and helped wipe out the remaining attackers. Soon, only Delrain was left standing, even though he still tried to resist. His abilities were completely overwhelmed. After everything was over, Rourke finally told Diana the full truth. When their daughter was still very young, she already showed terrifying hypnotic abilities with a single thought, and that was exactly the power Delrain wanted most. To protect their daughter, Rourke and Diana created a long-term plan together. They took the photo of their daughter and added the hidden trigger phrase to it. After that, they willingly erased their own memories. That was the only way to completely fool the organization. It also bought their daughter enough time to grow stronger. In the end, Rourke's plan actually worked. Finally, the family boarded a helicopter and left the farm together, and the entire hypnotic game finally came to an end. By the time the movie ended, you realized the scariest thing was never hypnosis itself. It was the fact that when memories, senses, and even reality could be rewritten, you would never know if anything around you was truly real. If one day you discovered your memories were fake, would you still trust yourself?